I'm gonna be frank with you, riding the bus in New York City is not a great experience. And for some reason, our current federal government, among other things, is really determined to make it worse. But first, why does no one enjoy taking the bus right now? New York's buses are two things, and both of these things are not good. First off, the buses are slow. The average bus speed in Manhattan is just 6.49 miles an hour. If you're running late, you're literally better off running to your destination.
And while filming B-roll for this series video, I kind of unintentionally proved that point. This is the M20, a bus in Manhattan which runs from Battery Park to Lincoln Center. This northbound bus is currently at 8th Avenue and 29th Street, where there is not even a bus lane. This and the lack of transit signal priority caused this bus to be stuck at this intersection for more than 2 minutes. And just on cue, here comes an emergency vehicle, not moving that much faster because it's also stuck in traffic. Like, come on. This is the New York City the federal government wants us to live in. They literally want people to die because they couldn't get life-saving care quick enough. And of course, here's our friend the M20 bus, and I'm on foot still going faster. Let's see if I'll beat it to the next block. Wow, that was pretty easy, but I guess it's not really a fair fight when the bus has to deal with all of this. I'm starting to think maybe cities shouldn't be designed around these car things. Well, that is just Manhattan. What about the rest of the city?
The citywide average speed is not much better at just 9.3 miles an hour, meaning in most cases, if you're willing and able, taking the subway or a bike is much faster. But that's the tragic thing. A higher percentage of people taking the bus are elderly or disabled, and for too long the city of New York has subjected them to a neglected bus network. A bus network that not only is absurdly slow, but is extremely unreliable. You can never really be sure whether the bus is coming in 2 minutes or in 30. And sometimes the bus just never comes at all. That's happened to me more than once. And after an experience or two like that, unless you absolutely need to, you just don't take the bus. But just saying the bus is unreliable, even though most people feel it is, isn't a measurable statistic. So two of the major ways the city measures this feeling of unreliability is by tracking bunching and on-time performance. Bunching measures how spread out the buses on a route are. You want buses to be spread out fairly evenly so you have predictable wait times and capacity levels. When buses get bunched up, they're either riding too far behind or too close together, which are both bad for separate reasons. When a bus runs too far behind schedule, of course wait times are longer, but the bus will also run near or above capacity, meaning dwell times at stops are longer, the bus takes more frequent stops, and the ride experience for passengers is worse. Occasionally the bus may be so crowded that passengers may have to wait for the next bus because the first one is above capacity. And these issues create a negative feedback loop. Longer dwell times and more stops means the bus runs even further behind schedule, making the bus more crowded. Eventually, the bus may run so late that it runs too close to the next scheduled bus. That next bus then runs well below capacity because most stops don't have as many people because the initial bus running behind schedule picked up their expected riders. That in turn creates a positive feedback loop where less people means less stops, and less stops leads to a faster bus, which may run ahead of schedule, which sounds good at first, but actually causes the next bus after that to run behind schedule because they're picking up all the passengers the fast bus didn't. You end up with a series of buses running really close to each other, then really far apart, occasionally even passing each other. Citywide, the bunching rate is 10.6%, meaning about 1 out of every 10 buses is running too close to another bus. But Brooklyn has the worst bunching rate at 15%. The other way to measure bus reliability is on-time performance. This is a bit more straightforward. It just measures how close a bus runs to its scheduled time, or how often the bus arrives at the time the timetable says it should. Yes, funny enough, those do exist, but I would never advise you to rely on them. Citywide, 70.3% of buses arrive on time, which the MTA defines as a bus arriving within 5 minutes of its scheduled time, which means that almost a third of buses arrive nowhere near when they were scheduled. That is bad. We want on-time performance to be more than 90%, not hovering around 70%. So how do we get better buses? Buses that run fast and reliably? Well, we need to make more room for buses, and congestion pricing was actually a great start to that. So far, congestion pricing in New York City has reduced traffic by 11%, and as a result, buses are running on time almost 10% more frequently. Not even related to speed, traffic injuries are down 15%, meaning congestion pricing has probably already saved a few lives. But we can expand this idea even further. What if we make a road that only buses can go on, essentially taking out the congestion issue altogether? It's a way just for buses, a busway. Well, y'all aren't going to believe this. New York City already kind of did this, and it's called the 14th Street Busway. In 2019, New York mostly banned private cars from 14th Street between 3rd and 8th Avenue. They still allowed large trucks to drive through and private vehicles local access to individual blocks, but they put in dedicated bus lanes and declared the street a busway. Within a year of implementation, bus trips on the 5 Avenue stretch were up to 36.6% faster, bus ridership was up to 35% higher, and city bike ridership was 94% higher, an increase more than 20% than the citywide average over the same period of time.
And to be honest, you don't even need to see the stats to know how much more safe and effective this street is. People feel so much more comfortable here. They can cross mid-block. By the way, jaywalking is allowed in New York City, so this is perfectly legal. And in addition, in this area by Union Square, some of the street has been reclaimed to provide even more pedestrian-only space. And you can clearly see why city biking has increased in this area. The lack of traffic makes it feel like a much safer ride. Although cyclists sharing the road with buses and trucks probably isn't ideal, it's better than what we had before. But speaking of buses and trucks, they can actually move at reasonable speeds. The 14th Street redesign was amazing for pedestrians, cyclists, public transit, and businesses.
So after seeing how successful the 14th Street busway had been, in mid-2025, the New York City DOT announced they were doing it again, but this time on 34th Street, where the M34 currently runs as slow as 3 miles an hour. Cool, another proposal to make travel 24% faster, increase safety by 42%, and make the street much more quiet and pedestrian friendly. Now, who could be against that? Who would be against that? Really? It's always the worst person you know.
I don't think there's anything going to get me in heaven. Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound.
So, in late October 2025, the United States Department of Transportation threatened to withhold federal funding from future New York metro area transit projects if the 34th Street busway project wasn't halted because the Trump administration hates fast and safe transportation. And that wasn't even the first time in the month of October where the Trump administration had meddled in New York's already approved infrastructure projects. Only a few weeks earlier, the president announced plans to withhold $18 billion already allocated to the greater New York City area for the 2nd Avenue subway extension and new Hudson River Amtrak tunnel. His reasons ranged from revenge against Democrats to contractor DEI requirements. In the case of the 34th Street busway, the Federal Highway Administration stated their main concern was whether truckers and emergency vehicles could access this important corridor with as few aversions as possible. But the crazy thing is, both this busway and the 14th Street busway have no restrictions on trucks or emergency vehicles. A simple Google search would have told you that.
But honestly, just take a look at 34th Street now and compare that to the 14th Street busway. Which street do you think is better for truckers and emergency vehicles? This one with a ton of car traffic, or this one with almost zero car traffic? I mean, New York's own trucking trade industry group has said they are in favor of a 34th Street busway because it's obvious. This helps truckers, buses, pedestrians, cyclists, everybody. Why is the federal government so dumb?
It's painstakingly clear all of these decisions coming from the federal government are to punish New Yorkers for not wanting their representative democracy to become an authoritative kingdom. And in the process, he's not just hurting the New Yorkers who disagree with his policies, he's hurting millions of Americans across the northeastern United States. And he's using public transportation as a means to do that. I don't think that's right. Advocating for better public transit shouldn't be a red or blue issue, but unfortunately, this current administration is shaping it out to be. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please don't forget to subscribe. Like this video, comment your thoughts down below. I'm Joel, this is Micromobile, and I will see you very soon. Bye.